These are shocking moments when animals were electrocuted, and all these goats had a habit of running off into the fields. So the owners of this little farm had an electric fence installed, and now the goats get a small shock that tells them to stay within the boundaries of the fence. Even the cat is following the rules. When a monkey is electrified and falls to the ground due to its curiosity, it almost dies. The semi-conscious monkey is lying on the ground. People cover the monkey in sand and try to revive him. Unfortunately, it seems like he passed away. This BLM Mustang would chew through the top wood poles of this fence to escape to the highway. The owners installed an electric fence around the perimeter of the property to protect the horses and people commuting on the road. The other horses, which include quarter horses, mountain horses, and Arabian horses, were also chewing on the wood but were unable to escape. The next clip will be even more insane. While driving on a quiet road, a driver sees a goose fall from the sky. The poor bird was electrocuted and most probably killed after the incident. It's safe to say this goose had a shocking experience, and its chances of becoming the next Top Gun of the bird world went up in smoke. Feathers crossed for a more grounded sequel to its adventure. The sheep in this video know to keep their distance after they get a shock. Once they understand this about the electric fence, everything will be fine. Let's see the next eye-opening clip. This small dog just couldn't leave the garden alone, so the owner temporarily hooked up the middle fence take to a battery fence unit. He figured this would be the dog's last venture into the garden, and I think he was right. You see how close this little bird is to being zapped, and when he is, he just disappears. I guess there's only one thing to say. Beam me up, Scotty. The spider received the shock of its life. To put it mildly, evidently burned by the shock, the spider passed away. When a wasp lands on an electric fence, he's almost shocked to death. Even though the insect is still alive, I don't think it's going to be for very long. Make sure to electrify that subscribe button and let's dive into the next stunning clip. Here is a goat that tries its luck with an electric fence. But the second it touches the fence, it runs off and bounces up and down, hitting all sorts of things, moving as far away from the fence as possible. I guess that couldn't have felt good. A determined young adult black bear sneaks past an electric fence drawn by the sweet aroma of honey. The entire episode was captured on security and trail cameras. After returning 2 more times, you can see the bear trying to move the container, which causes him to get too close to the fence and take a shot. He runs off faster than he came in. The big guy returns only to be disappointed again. I guess this fence is effective and prevents pests like bears and other animals from stealing valuable merchandise. But you definitely want to see this next clip. This chimp is looking for trouble when he decides to take a walk on the wild side. He manages to get to an electric pole before being zapped and weakened by the shock. He tries to hang on, but eventually drops to the ground, where city officials and an ambulance wait to catch and rescue the chimp. This squirrel is not a flying squirrel, but that's what it looks like when he gets zapped and takes a plunge to the ground. Squirrels are probably the animals that walk on electrical cables and climb electric poles the most, so this puts them at risk of receiving a deadly shock. What transpires if a bear tinkers with an electric fence? The bear runs to mother with his tail between his knees in need of hugs when the fence wins in this situation. Will a snail's cautious approach to an electric fence be sufficient? The snail's head moves back in disgust in response to being startled, as can be seen. Pigs are intelligent creatures, so it won't be long before they realize what happens when they touch an electric fence. However, this small pig accidentally touches the fence and then takes off after him. It's challenging to avoid the barrier in this little environment. This next clip is even more idiotic. No, this squirrel is not honing his trapeze skills for a circus performance. When this small kid touches an electric fence, he receives the shock of his life. I'm shocked he wasn't launched into the air by that. It appears that the shock is potent enough to deter the squirrel from remaining there, but not harmful enough to render him unconscious. This dog wants to cross the bridge so he can play with the cows because he is intrigued. He immediately turns around after touching the fence. He apparently learns the hard way that cows should not be spoken to. It's a mystery how in the world this goat ended up perched on those cables. Even the tourists who saw it were completely puzzled. They knew they couldn't wait around for a crane or firefighters to arrive, so they took matters into their own hands. They decided to use a ladder to try and gently nudge the goat away from the cable. It was a risky move, and it might have caused the goat some discomfort. But they believed it was the only choice they had. It was better for the goat to endure a little pain than to end up in a dire situation. They carefully tied ropes around the goat, and with some effort, managed to save its life. Finally, a story of an animal that didn't end up getting electrocuted. Monkeys are known for their fearless acrobatics on electrical power lines, using them like monkey highways. However, in Guiyang City, China, one brave monkey got a bit too adventurous. It suffered an electric shock and passed out, perched on a transformer for a full 3 hours. When the people living nearby saw that the monkey wasn't moving and appeared unconscious, they realized it needed help. They quickly contacted the electric company, who promptly arrived at the scene. To ensure everyone's safety, they turned off the electricity, and with great care, they rescued the monkey. The monkey was then rushed to a hospital, where it received the necessary medical attention. Despite the shocking ordeal it went through, the monkey managed to survive. It's a testament to the quick thinking and efforts of the residents and the electric company, who came together to ensure the monkey's well-being. 2 big elephants were walking on a beautiful mountain with green grass all around. Suddenly, one of the elephants got a shock from some wires. Even though there was space between the wires and the elephant, the air around them allowed the electricity to pass through and shock the elephant. Thankfully, the other elephant came to the rescue, helped its friend stand up, and they continued their walk together. I wholeheartedly concur with the owner of this video, who claimed that the birds were engaging in a game of jump rope with a power line. But because of their sheer size, I had a bad feeling that something dreadful would occur. Sure enough, the distribution line ruptured, sending all the birds flying off. Numerous birds that had been roasted perished in the explosion. A sloth, which is a very slow-moving animal, got stuck between 2 live wires, and it didn't realize they were dangerous. It ended up getting shocked for a long time while someone was watching. Sadly, the sloth passed away, but it took a while for its grip to loosen from the wires due to the strong electric current. It's a sad and painful way for any animal to die. Showing a cat stuck on a power line. It's unclear how the cat got into that situation, but unfortunately, a tragic ending was in store. Before the rescuers could reach it, the cat was electrocuted. You can see the dangerous sparks of electricity that caused the cat to fall to the ground. The poor cat didn't have a chance to catch its breath. It was a devastating and swift end. It's indeed a heartbreaking and avoidable tragedy. In this distressing incident from India, a cow encountered a deadly situation. The water pooling beneath the utility pole conducted electricity, and when the cow stepped onto it, it suffered an electric shock. While it's uncertain if the voltage was strong enough to instantly end the cow's life, the way it fell and remained motionless suggests a grim outcome. This incident underscores the importance of taking precautions to prevent such accidents, especially when electrical hazards are present. Sadly, some reports indicate that the cow may have succumbed to its injuries later on, making it a truly tragic incident. Researchers do some interesting things to learn about animals. In one study, they used a deer carcass with wires attached to a battery and left it in the jungle to see what would happen. A hungry bear came along and wanted to eat the deer, so it took a bite. But surprise, it got a shock and was very confused about its dinner. You might think the bear would give up after being shocked twice, but bears are persistent. Later that night, the bear returned for another try, and yes, it got shocked again. But this bear was no ordinary bear. It was smart. It took some time to figure out the problem. It realized that the battery was causing the shocks, so it disconnected it. The bear even poked the deer a few times to make sure it was safe to eat. Finally, it went for its meal without any more shocks, showing that intelligence and determination can overcome challenges. Baby animals are naturally curious, and they're always drawn to things that pique their interest, like those skinny wires that surrounded their enclosure. One day, a curious baby chimp couldn't resist getting closer to these wires to see what they were all about. But oh boy, did it get a big surprise. The poor little chimp felt a powerful shock from the wires, and it was all shaken up by the sudden jolt. Thankfully, its family rushed over to comfort and reassure the little one. The baby chimp clung to its mother for safety and comfort, learning a valuable lesson about how electricity can be quite shocking, literally. These people decided to erect an electric fence after growing weary of having a large moose raid their food garden. Additionally, the moose's morning food didn't taste all that great. I have to say that it excited him. This man kept losing fish to a raccoon that was snatching them out of the water. Hence, he got an electric fence installed, and instead of shocking the fish, the raccoon was shocked by the fence. Some tourists arrived in South Africa, and on their first day, they encountered a cobra that got zapped when he made contact with an electric fence. A man pushed the snake away with a stick to prevent him from further electrocution. As a man chatted away on the phone, suddenly bam, a thunderous noise, almost like a shotgun blast, jolted him. Without a second thought, he bolted outside to investigate the commotion. To his amazement, he discovered a fluffy squirrel tail swaying mysteriously. Minutes later, the little squirrel began to stir but lost its balance and tumbled to the ground. There it lay, writhing in pain and gasping for breath. Such a shock was quite a heavy load for a tiny creature like that, and it's truly remarkable that the resilient squirrel was still clinging to life after such a dramatic ordeal. A bear became persistent when he noticed a chicken coop filled with chickens. After damaging the door, an electric fence was added by the owners. The bear never returned to try and break in again. These deer were accustomed to munching on the property's hedge. They tried to get to it even after the owner put up a new electric fence to keep them away. But wow, were they shocked to learn how much it hurt to touch the fence. This next clip is even more brutal. This innocent white goat is taking a stroll along this electric fence and gets a shock for the first time. This goat used to get away by jumping the fence. This fence was constructed because there's a road directly in front of the pasture where cars travel at 55 miles per hour up a hill. So the property owners would rather their goats suffer a minor shock than run away into the pasture and onto the road to be hit by a car, because they are their pets, they adore them. This kitty learns an unfortunate lesson about electric fences when he gets too close to one. He ran away and will be okay, but he just found out how shocking certain fences can be. The owner's kitten accidentally touched the electric fence as it was making its way to the man's pond, scaring it away and teaching it what his boundaries were. The horse in this video has a tiny electrical fetish, which is why he's rubbing his behind against the electric fence. Because he enjoys the sensation, he wants to get zapped. Discourse on a masochistic equine. The baby water buffalo has to understand what a fence line is before the animals return to the pasture for the winter. After a few shocks like this one, he'll no doubt pick it up rather rapidly. Curious what animal breaks an electric fence? Watch this. Whether or not there is a shock, it doesn't appear that an electric fence can contain elephants. An electric fence is not a barrier that this elephant must overcome to cross a busy road. These birds meet at the top of an electric pole, but one of the birds is unlucky and gets zapped. The bird falls to the ground, and the person filming approaches it. The bird is stunned but still alive, and after a few seconds, it even manages to fly away. I hope it learned its lesson. A curious baboon approaches a fence. He wants to climb, but what he doesn't know is that the fence is alive, and he finds out quickly that it also bites. As soon as the baboon begins to climb, he is zapped and runs off in the other direction. However, another baboon is seen climbing and crossing to the other side without a problem. In a jaw-dropping dashcam spectacle, watch as a daring goose narrowly navigates the electric lines, only to meet a shocking demise when it collides with the unforgiving electricity lines in Illinois, unable to ascend quickly enough, and falls down on the road. Someone ordered TFC. This Doberman approaches an invisible electric fence, and the second he gets too close, he feels the pain. He has no idea what just happened and wonders if it's the cow's fault. He tries to figure out what went wrong, but he's not willing to give it another shot. This is one smart dog, and don't miss out on this next clip. Another monkey practicing his trapeze act on an electric wire. To impress circus owners that were in town found out soon enough that this was not the place to train when he was zapped by the current, which threw him to the ground. I don't know if the monkey survived, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. Parrots are being electrocuted, according to the sibling of the person filming this video. So he grabs his camera and records the whole incident, and you can see the other two dangling by their beaks and one on its tail. They were producing an electric shock by climbing from wire to wire. They would not have been electrocuted if they had just stayed on one line. This slug is trying to crawl under an electric fence, and no one can do this slower than this guy. But no matter how slow he is, if he makes one false move, he will be roasted. This man's kitten was approaching his pond and inadvertently touched the electric fence. receiving a quick bolt of lightning that just scared him away and taught him what his boundaries were. But that's not all. This video on the right-hand side is even crazier.